Well, over the years, I have seen conservative talk hosts and political commentators battle among their colleagues, and it also happens with left-wing progressive commentators. And right now, it seems to be a feud between Kyle Kulinkski and David Pakman. I'm Bernie, bro, and I'll give y'all my take on this. Um, this past week, like a couple of days, there was a caller on the David Pakman show concerned about Kyle Kulinkski, Crystal Ball, and some of the other progressive commentators who are not going to vote for Joe Biden. And David Pakman was sharing his take on this. And honestly, I am a fan of both Kyle Kulinski and David Pakman. I mean they are pretty much my go tos. I have others too that I like to listen to, but I value Kyle Kulinski's take on matters. I also value David Pakman's takes on issues as well. And so I take what they say with a grain of salt and come with my own conclusions. And Kyle Kulinski is never Biden, and I know that David Pakman wished it would be somebody other than Biden to choose from in the Democratic field. I know, or I believe he was supportive of Bernie Sanders in 2016, if I remember correctly. And this year, he was initially a supporter of Elizabeth Warren, but I am assuming between Biden and Sanders, I know Pakman well enough. I would say that he was probably at the point on the Sanders bandwagon, I would think. And I understand both perspectives. Well, I tend to take the Kyle Kulinski perspective of, the hell with supporting Joe Biden. He doesn't really um, support anything that genuine people from the left find very, very important to address. And I understand David Pakman's harm reductions logic. And I mean, I used to be 50-50. I mean, and that was that I would go and vote as far left as I can, independent leftist that's available on the ballot, if especially if the Democratic candidate was just too bad, horrible. And if there was nothing to the left of the Democrats, I would choose the Democrat, just to stop the Republican. Um, a lot of times these days, I look at the Democrat versus the Republican, and since it was hardly ever anybody to the left of that Democrat, I will leave it blank. And usually I'll vote third party pretty much in every presidential election. Just how I am, because I live in a red state. It's not going to matter. Well, both David Pakman and Kyle Kulinski, they both live in blue states. Kyle Kulinski lives in New York. David Pakman lives in Massachusetts. And let's face it, Donald Trump does not have a snowball's chance in hell of winning Massachusetts or New York State. So in David Pakman's case, if I see no reason to not vote third party in Massachusetts. And same thing with New York. Kyle Kulinski, of course, he's either not going to vote or vote green, or I believe those are his options. A schmuck like myself down here in North Carolina, I mean, I'm just an insignificant person that likes to chat on YouTube, but I'm going to give you my take. I live down here in North Carolina. My state is hopelessly red. Oh, I keep on hearing, oh, didn't start in the 80s. It didn't start to vote until the late 1980s. And I have lived as far back as I can remember who Jesse Helms was. I have lived with the shame of having Jesse Helms as my U.S. Senator in North Carolina until he finally retired in 2003, January 2003, when he left the Senate. Um, I had voted for Harvey Gantt, who was a Democrat I was very, very proud to vote for in 1990 and 96 when I was old enough to vote. I've been legal to vote since 1988. So 1990 and 1996, I voted for Gantt twice to not just put a stop to Jesse Helms, but to replace Jesse Helms with somebody who was genuinely decent. I still say that to this day. North Carolina would have been better off had it not had it elected Harvey Gantt, and I would venture to say so would have the United States for that matter, because Jesse Helms it was one of the worst political figures of the latter half of the 20th century here in these United States. Um, Getting back to what I was saying, here in North Carolina, I would hear many year after year. Oh, North Carolina is changing. The urban areas are getting more urban. People from up north are coming down. We're much more diverse than we used to be, or what have you. Oh, well, that's well and dandy and everything, but North Carolina is still very very right wing. If there was one positive event that happened in 2016 in North Carolina was the removal of Governor Pat McCrory, who was one of the worst governors imaginable in memory here in North Carolina, in my memory. And North Carolina pretty much uh, is a low unionization state and everything. And Pat McCrory loved that aspect about it and wanted to keep it that way. And I am I, it was the biggest blessing in the world to rid North Carolina of Pat McCrory. But still, Pat McCrory, who's in the ideological tradition of someone like Jesse Helms, still keeps getting elected. You get these clowns that get elected all the time down here. And my point is that it's not going to matter here in North Carolina who I vote for in November, because you got people that they think they're entitled to my vote. And why should I vote for a main party candidate that says to hell with all my positions? I'll give you an example. And I voted for John Edwards in 1998 for the U.S. Senate just to unseat Faircloth. Um, I talked to John Edwards at the Johnson County Fair in 1998 with his little fake ass grin on his, and his politician. I shake hands and I can go and soothe your concerns with my false charm and all of that. That's basically. I mean, I knew he was a bullshit artist when I met him, and all the concerns that I have, and they're not radical concerns. Or they might have been considered radical in the 1990s, but they weren't particularly radical concerns because there's nothing radical about social democracy. It's reasonable, very very reasonable, and he wasn't interested in single payer health care. He was not interested in making it easier for unions to organize. He was not particularly keen on raising the minimum wage. Back then I called for a $10 hour minimum wage in 1998. Now it ought to be 15, but he was not particularly friendly to that idea. He was passionately for the death penalty, which I don't like to use the word trigger, but that gets me triggered. That's an issue that a human rights issue that's very dear to me. I like to see this country abolish capital punishment. Um, and he was pretty much just a damn new Democrat, what the new Democrat, as they referred to it back in the 1990s, a Clintonista, corporate Democrat. Um, and and he was one of the people I'm sorry that I've ever casted my vote for. As I said, I have casted my vote for various people that I look back and just cringe at the idea that I've actually wasted my time voting. And as I said, living here in North Carolina, it's not like I live in a swing state. And I urge Democrats and Republicans who are not satisfied with their Democrat or with their Republican candidates to vote third party. When I argue for independent political action, I just don't argue it from the left. I think the more the merrier. And this is why I advocate eliminating the electoral college too, because once the electoral college is gone, the people within the current two-party system, they're probably going to be parting ways to form their own little parties. If the electoral college was gone, we will probably have a 5 or 6 party political system. And wouldn't y'all be happier to vote for a political party more of your liking than settling for a a, a, the, a bland candidate from either party? Well, a bland candidate from the Democratic Party, or if you're in the Republican Party and you're a libertarian, or you're more of a Eisenhower style traditional Republican, having to choose between some Christian fundamentalist, corporatist neocon piece of shit candidate. I mean, it would be kind of nice if everybody has some choices. So, I hate to see Kyle Kulinkski and David Pakman feud like this, because I respect them both and I value what they have to say. For Kyle Kulinkski, obviously, this is social democratic, left populist stance. I admire, and where I think that he and David Pakman pretty much agree across the board. I also need to listen to David Pakman because he does have a very cool head and an analytical mind to make you think of how we can go forward and to get actual results achieved. So I respect both personalities and hate to see the feud. And I actually even respect where and understand where each side is coming from. Obviously, I'm going to side more with Kyle Kulinski on this particular matter than I would David Pakman. And there, as I said, there will be other issues, and there are other issues where I'm probably more inclined to agree with David Pakman. I would say that I agree with Kyle Kulinski 95% of the time, and I will say that I agree with David Pakman more like 92, 93% of the time. It ain't that much that I would disagree with either one of them on uh, issue when it comes to the issues, but I am going to side with Kyle Kulinski on this one. Anyway, I'm Bernie Bro. I'm here to share with you my social democratic perspective. And if you like what you heard, you can always give me a thumbs up. And if you don't think I'm so hot, you can always give me a thumbs down. Tell your friends, tell everybody about this channel. It's kind of a hobby at this point, but I'm also planning to. I have long-term plans for this channel, and I plan to be more professional and to have a better sense of delivery in my speaking style, and going to have a better background and all of that. Just stay tuned. But for right now, in the last couple of months, in its infancy stage, I am here to share with you my social democratic insights and perspective. I am Bernie Bro. Remember, subscribe, thumbs up or thumbs down. Peace.